Don't skip this message, because the next few minutes could shift how you see the last 7 years of your life. If you felt stuck, blocked, or forgotten, this word is specifically for you. Watch until the very end, because the final part carries the key to what you must do as this delay breaks. And if this message speaks to your spirit, stay connected, stay focused, and don't miss what God is about to reveal next. If you feel like something in your life has been stuck, delayed, blocked, postponed, denied, ignored, or mysteriously held back for years, and no matter how hard you prayed, worked, cried, or believed nothing seemed to move, then listen carefully, because this message is not random, this moment is not accidental. And what you are about to hear is not coincidence but confirmation that God is breaking a 7-year delay right now, and the very thing that felt frozen in time is about to move with divine acceleration, because there are seasons in life when heaven appears silent, yet beneath the surface God is arranging conversations you cannot hear, aligning people you have never met, closing doors you did not even know were dangerous, and building strength inside you that could not be formed any other way. And for 7 years you may have felt like you were circling the same mountain, wondering why opportunities slipped through your fingers, why relationships did not stabilize, why finances stayed tight, why recognition never came, why prayers seemed unanswered, and why the promise felt so far away. But what you called delay God called development, what you called punishment God called preparation, and what you thought was denial was actually divine protection from stepping into something before your spirit was strong enough to sustain it. Because if God had given you then what He is about to release now, it would have crushed you instead of crowned you, it would have overwhelmed you instead of elevated you, and it would have distracted you instead of defining you. And there are cycles in life that last longer than we expect, not because God forgot us, but because He is orchestrating timing with precision that our human impatience cannot comprehend. Just as Joseph endured years of betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment before rising to power in Egypt, and just as David was anointed long before he ever wore the crown, and just as Job lost everything before experiencing restoration beyond measure, your story has been in a silent chapter, but the page is turning, and the same God who parted the Red Sea, who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, who raised Lazarus after 4 days in the grave, who brought resurrection power through Jesus Christ, is not limited by calendars, statistics, or human predictions. Because when heaven moves, it can reverse years of stagnation in a single moment and accomplish in days what would normally take decades, and you are stepping into a divine shift where momentum replaces frustration, clarity replaces confusion, and acceleration replaces stagnation, because the 7-year delay was not a waste, it was a womb, and what has been forming in darkness is about to be revealed in light. And some of you have questioned your worth, doubted your calling, compared your timeline to others, and silently wondered if God chose someone else instead. But comparison is the thief of divine focus, and the delay was separating you from distractions, teaching you endurance, deepening your faith, sharpening your discernment, and building spiritual authority that cannot be manufactured overnight. And what is about to break is not only external circumstances but internal limitations, because sometimes the greatest prison is not the situation around you but the belief within you that things will never change, and that lie is being shattered right now. Because God is not late, He is strategic, and the 7-year delay is collapsing under divine command, and doors that resisted you will begin to open without force, Conversations that once ended in rejection will shift toward favor, financial pressure that lingered will begin to ease, creative ideas that felt blocked will flow freely, and relationships that were misaligned will either transform or move out of your path, because when God accelerates He also purifies. And what cannot go with you into the next season will fall away naturally, and you will look back and realize that what felt like abandonment was actually alignment, because delay does not mean denial and silence does not mean absence, and even when you felt alone, heaven was actively working on your behalf, arranging unseen details that required time to mature, because fruit picked too early is bitter but fruit harvested in its appointed season is sweet and sustaining, and you are stepping into harvest, and harvest requires maturity, responsibility, and readiness, and that is why the last 7 years shaped you in ways you may not even fully recognize yet, because patience expanded your capacity, adversity strengthened your resilience, isolation deepened your intimacy with God, and disappointment refined your expectations so that now you are not desperate for approval but anchored in purpose, and when the breakthrough comes you will not misuse it, sabotage it, or idolize it, because the delay removed pride, fear, insecurity, and the need to prove yourself, and now you are prepared to receive without self-doubt, to lead without arrogance, and to prosper without losing your humility, and this is the hour where divine reversal meets divine release, because cycles that repeated year after year are ending, patterns that held you captive are breaking, and mental narratives that whispered defeat are being replaced with bold faith, and you may not see immediate fireworks but subtle shifts will begin to appear, small confirmations, unexpected opportunities, surprising reconnections, sudden clarity, and a sense of peace that replaces anxiety, because when God breaks a delay He does not always shout, sometimes He moves quietly yet powerfully, aligning everything behind the scenes until one day you realize the waiting season has ended and movement has begun, and you will sense urgency in your spirit, a motivation that feels different, a confidence that feels grounded rather than forced, and an awareness that something significant is unfolding, because the same God who allowed the delay is now commanding acceleration, and no person, no mistake, no past failure, no lost opportunity, and no spoken curse can override what heaven has decreed for your life, because when God decides it is time nothing can permanently obstruct the path He has cleared, and what took 7 years to restrain will not take 7 more to restore, because restoration under divine authority multiplies what was lost. And you will not merely recover but increase, not merely survive but thrive, not merely return to where you were but step into a higher dimension of purpose and influence, and this breakthrough will not just impact you but everyone connected to you, because delayed destinies often carry generational influence, and when your delay breaks it shifts the atmosphere around your family, your community, and your future, and the tears you cried in private were not wasted, the prayers whispered at night were not unheard. The moments you almost gave up but chose to stand anyway were recorded in heaven, and endurance has positioned you for elevation, and elevation without endurance creates instability but elevation after endurance creates legacy, and this is not hype, it is alignment, not fantasy but fulfillment, and even if fear tries to resurface reminding you of past disappointments you must refuse to partner with it, because faith is not denial of difficulty but trust in divine timing. And the timing is shifting, and you are entering a season where effort will produce visible results, where obedience will yield measurable impact, where faith will be validated by manifestation, and where doors will open that no human connection alone could have engineered, because favor from God surpasses networking, strategy, and human approval, and while wisdom and action remain necessary, there will be a supernatural ease accompanying your steps, as if resistance has dissolved, because the barrier was not permanent. It was seasonal, and seasons change, and just as winter eventually yields to spring, your long winter is ending, and seeds planted years ago are breaking through soil, and what looked barren is becoming fruitful, and you will testify that the 7-year delay strengthened your foundation so deeply that when the blessing arrived it did not destroy you but established you, and you will carry gratitude instead of entitlement, clarity instead of confusion, discipline instead of distraction, and peace instead of panic. Because breakthrough without inner transformation can become another trap, but your transformation has already occurred, and now the external shift can safely follow. And remember this: God does not measure time the way humans do, and what feels long to you may be perfectly timed in eternity, because He sees intersections you cannot, dangers you avoided unknowingly, and opportunities that required specific alignment to unfold. And now alignment is complete. And you will notice acceleration in conversations, decisions, and confirmations, because the weight of delay has lifted, and when weight lifts, movement becomes natural, and you will step forward not with desperation but with assurance, not begging for doors to open but confidently walking through those that do, because what is meant for you cannot be permanently withheld, and what was delayed is being delivered, and what was restrained is being released, and what was postponed is being propelled into motion. And this is the moment to remain alert, disciplined, grateful, and faithful. Because when acceleration begins, it requires stewardship, and you are no longer in the season of waiting but in the season of walking. And as you move forward, you will see that the 7-year delay was not the end of your story but the foundation of your testimony, and the same voice that sustained you in silence is now announcing movement. And you will not miss what God is doing because your spirit has been trained through the delay to recognize His timing, and as the breakthrough unfolds, you will stand in awe, realizing that nothing was wasted, nothing was random, nothing was forgotten, and the God who kept you through the delay is the same God who is breaking it right now. And as this divine acceleration continues to unfold, you must understand that when God breaks a 7-year delay, He does not simply restore what was lost, but He restructures your entire perspective so that you can handle what is coming. Because breakthrough without wisdom can become another cycle of delay, and this time you are not stepping into the next season naive, insecure, or dependent on external validation. You are stepping in refined, sharpened, and spiritually aware, because the years that felt silent were actually years of spiritual construction where your character was being reinforced beneath the surface. And foundations are never celebrated while they are being built, yet they are the most important part of any structure. And what God has been building inside you cannot be shaken by temporary storms. Because you have survived disappointment, rejection, confusion, betrayal, and internal battles that no one else even knew you were fighting, and survival was not the goal, strengthening was. And now that strength is becoming visible through confidence, clarity, and courage that does not need applause to remain steady, and this next phase will require bold steps that the old version of you would have been too afraid to take. Conversations you would have avoided, opportunities you would have doubted, risks you would have postponed. But delay has transformed hesitation into discernment and fear into focus, and the same situations that once intimidated you will now reveal how much you have grown, because growth during delay is the hidden miracle that prepares you for visible favor, and favor is not random luck but divine alignment meeting prepared character. And for years alignment was forming behind the scenes while your character was being refined in private, and now those two forces are converging, and when preparation meets opportunity, acceleration becomes inevitable, and some of you will notice that things begin to move faster than expected. Phone calls you thought would never come suddenly arrive, doors that were tightly shut begin to open without resistance, people who overlooked you start acknowledging your value, and resources that seemed scarce begin to flow more freely. And it may feel almost surreal because stagnation trained you to expect delay, but expectation must now shift from doubt to anticipation, because if you remain mentally anchored in past disappointment you may hesitate when the door finally opens, and hesitation can cause missed momentum, and this is why faith must rise to match the speed of the breakthrough, because God is not only breaking external delay but internal limitation, and the narrative that told you nothing ever works out for you is being dismantled. The belief that you are always the exception to the blessing is being uprooted, and the identity of someone who waits endlessly is being replaced with the identity of someone who walks confidently into fulfillment, because identity determines capacity, and capacity determines how much you can sustain, and the 7-year delay expanded your capacity in ways you did not recognize, because you learned to endure uncertainty without collapsing, to remain faithful without constant reward, to stay disciplined without immediate results, and those traits are rare and powerful, and now they position you for leadership, influence, and impact that would have overwhelmed your former self, and do not be surprised if you also experience a separation from environments, conversations, and relationships that no longer align with your direction, because acceleration often creates distance from what is stagnant. And not everyone who walked with you in the delay is meant to walk with you in the release, and this is not rejection but redirection, because proximity without alignment can slow down momentum, and God is protecting the speed of your next season by pruning what cannot grow with you, and pruning may feel uncomfortable but it always precedes fruitfulness, and fruitfulness is not just material gain but peace of mind, clarity of purpose, and stability of spirit. And as you step into this accelerated phase you will notice a stronger sense of conviction guiding your decisions, a heightened awareness of what to accept and what to decline, and a deeper trust in your intuition. Because your spirit has been trained through years of waiting to recognize divine timing, and timing is everything, because a blessing received too early can become a burden but a blessing received at the right time becomes sustainable success, and now sustainability is the goal, not just sudden excitement but lasting impact, not just quick wins but generational influence. And the 7-year delay has ensured that what you build next will not crumble under pressure, because pressure has already tested you, and you did not break, and that resilience is proof that you are ready, and readiness attracts responsibility, and responsibility invites expansion, and expansion brings visibility, and visibility requires integrity, and integrity was forged during the years no one was watching, and that hidden integrity will now protect you when opportunities increase. Because success without integrity destroys but success with integrity multiplies, and you are entering a multiplying season, where ideas grow faster, connections strengthen deeper, and results appear clearer, and even if the manifestation unfolds step by step rather than overnight you will sense the undeniable difference between delay and development, because delay feels heavy and stagnant while development feels progressive and purposeful, and now progress is replacing paralysis, and purpose is replacing confusion, and confidence is replacing insecurity, and you will no longer beg for recognition from spaces that were never assigned to you, because when God breaks delay He also breaks the need to force acceptance, and what belongs to you will welcome you naturally, and what is assigned to you will not require you to shrink yourself to fit, and this freedom will feel unfamiliar at first because you have been accustomed to striving, proving, and pushing, but in this new season grace will accompany effort. And effort will produce fruit instead of frustration, and even setbacks will no longer derail you. Because your foundation is firm, and if challenges arise they will be temporary tests rather than prolonged stagnation, because the cycle has shifted, and cycles matter, because life often moves in patterns until something interrupts them, and divine intervention has interrupted yours, and the repetition of disappointment has been replaced with the rhythm of progress. And you will start noticing that what once took months now takes weeks, what once took weeks now takes days, and what once felt impossible now feels accessible, and accessibility does not mean ease without discipline but it means resistance without blockage, and there is a difference, because blockage stops movement entirely while resistance simply strengthens you during movement, and you are no longer blocked, you are moving, and movement creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence, and confidence fuels greater action, and greater action leads to greater results, and this upward spiral is replacing the downward spiral of delay, and you must guard your focus carefully during this transition because old doubts may attempt to resurface when things begin to improve, whispering that it will not last or that something will go wrong, but those whispers are echoes of a past season that no longer has authority over your present, and authority has shifted, because what heaven releases cannot be permanently revoked by fear. And as you continue forward you will look back at the 7-year delay not with bitterness but with gratitude. Because you will see how every closed door redirected you, every rejection refined you, every tear strengthened you, and every unanswered prayer positioned you for a better yes, and the yes that is unfolding now carries weight, depth, and permanence. And this is not temporary excitement but sustainable elevation, and elevation does not remove responsibility but it increases impact. And you are ready for impact because the delay matured your motives, clarified your intentions, and anchored your faith, and faith is no longer fragile or dependent on quick results, it is steady, grounded, and resilient. And resilience is what ensures that this breakthrough will not be short-lived but long-lasting, and as acceleration continues you will sense a deeper peace replacing the urgency that once felt frantic, because when timing aligns urgency becomes purposeful rather than desperate, and you will act from clarity rather than panic, from vision rather than fear, and from conviction rather than comparison, and this inner stability is the true sign that the delay has been broken, because external change without internal peace is incomplete, but internal peace combined with external movement is confirmation, and confirmation is what you are receiving right now, that the waiting season has ended, that the preparation phase has completed, that the alignment is set. And that the 7-year delay is no longer a barrier but a testimony, and as you step into this unfolding chapter remain humble, remain focused, remain grateful, because gratitude sustains momentum and humility protects favor, and the God who kept you steady in silence is now guiding you confidently in motion, and this motion will not exhaust you but energize you, because it is aligned, it is timely, and it is divinely orchestrated, and you are no longer asking when. You are witnessing now that as this momentum continues to build, you will begin to recognize that what felt like a prolonged spiritual drought was actually a strategic divine pause designed to recalibrate your direction, refine your desires, and realign your destiny with a higher standard than you previously imagined, because sometimes the greatest breakthrough is not simply receiving what you prayed for but becoming the person capable of sustaining something greater than what you originally requested. And during those 7 years there were silent upgrades happening within your mindset, your emotional intelligence, your discipline, your discernment, and even your tolerance for what you will and will not accept, and those upgrades were invisible to others but essential for where you are going, because if you had entered this new season with the same boundaries, the same habits, the same tolerance for mediocrity, and the same fear of stepping out, you would have repeated old cycles under new circumstances, and repetition is what the delay was preventing. Because God was not interested in giving you temporary relief but permanent transformation. And transformation requires time, pressure, reflection, and growth that cannot be rushed without compromising stability, and now stability has been formed in you in a way that external chaos cannot easily shake. And this is why the breaking of the 7-year delay feels different from past moments of excitement that faded quickly, because this shift carries weight, depth, and sustainability. And as doors begin to open, you will sense that they are not fragile opportunities that can collapse overnight but solid pathways supported by preparation and purpose is what gives endurance to progress. And progress without purpose leads to burnout, but progress aligned with purpose creates fulfillment, and fulfillment is what you are stepping into, not just success measured by numbers or recognition but success measured by peace, clarity, and meaningful impact. And there will be moments in this acceleration where you may feel overwhelmed not by pressure but by possibility. Because for so long your vision was constrained by limitation, and now possibility is expanding faster than your previous imagination allowed, and expansion requires courage, because stepping into abundance after prolonged lack can feel unfamiliar, and unfamiliar territory can trigger old survival instincts, but you must remind yourself that survival mode has ended and stewardship mode has begun. Because what is coming now is not merely about getting through another season but about building something that lasts beyond it, and building requires intentional choices, wise partnerships, disciplined execution, and continued faith, and faith in this season will not look like waiting quietly but moving confidently, speaking boldly, deciding firmly, and acting strategically. Because the delay taught you patience but the release requires action, and action rooted in wisdom creates unstoppable momentum. And you will notice that clarity about what truly matters has sharpened dramatically. Distractions that once consumed your time will no longer appeal to you, conversations that once entertained you will now feel draining, and environments that once felt comfortable will now feel limiting. Because growth changes taste, and you have outgrown spaces that were only meant for your preparation, and do not mistake this shift for arrogance. It is alignment. Because when alignment occurs, comfort zones dissolve and new standards emerge, and standards protect your future from repeating your past, and the 7-year delay raised your standards quietly while you were focused on surviving. And now those standards will guide you into decisions that produce consistent results instead of temporary highs, and consistency is the true evidence that delay has ended, because in the past progress may have come in short bursts followed by long dry seasons, but now the rhythm will stabilize. Effort will connect to outcome more directly, and your energy will feel purposeful rather than scattered, and even when challenges appear they will not feel like punishment but like assignments that stretch you into greater capacity, because stretching is different from stagnation. Stretching moves you forward while stagnation holds you still, and you are no longer stagnant, you are stretching, expanding, and stepping into responsibilities that match your matured identity, and identity is the foundation of destiny. Because who you believe you are determines what you pursue, what you accept, and what you walk away from, and during the delay your identity was purified from the need to prove yourself to people who never intended to validate you, and now you no longer seek applause from the wrong audience because you understand that purpose does not require universal approval, it requires divine alignment and personal conviction, and conviction is stronger in you now than ever before. Because you have tested your faith in private battles and it has held steady, and that private strength will now support public progress, and public progress will not intimidate you because you know who carried you through the hidden season, and humility will remain your anchor as visibility increases, because you understand that every open door is grace, every opportunity is stewardship, and every advancement is responsibility, and responsibility handled well multiplies trust, and trust opens greater doors. And this upward pattern will replace the downward cycle of delay that once felt endless, and even your perspective on time will shift, because instead of feeling behind you will feel positioned, instead of feeling forgotten you will feel selected, and instead of feeling unlucky you will recognize the precision of divine timing that kept you from settling prematurely, and settling is often the hidden enemy of destiny, because settling trades long-term fulfillment for short-term relief. And the delay prevented you from settling for relationships, jobs, environments, and mindsets that would have limited your growth, and now you are stepping into options that reflect your true value rather than your past insecurity, and value recognized internally attracts value externally, and as your internal confidence solidifies external respect will naturally follow, because people respond differently when you carry quiet certainty instead of anxious striving. And that quiet certainty is evidence that the delay has completed its assignment, and as you continue moving forward you will notice that your prayers shift from desperate pleas to strategic declarations, from asking why to declaring readiness, and from questioning your path to confidently walking it, and this transformation in how you speak and think is just as significant as any external breakthrough, because language shapes perception and perception shapes behavior, and behavior sustained over time shapes destiny, and your destiny is no longer paused. It is progressing with intention and clarity, and even if full manifestation unfolds gradually you will feel the undeniable difference between being stuck and being aligned, because alignment carries peace even before results appear, and peace is the foundation upon which sustainable success is built, and as the 7-year delay fully collapses you will understand that nothing was wasted, not the tears, not the confusion, not the loneliness, not the closed doors, not the moments of doubt, because each of those experiences carved depth into your character. And depth creates influence that surface-level success never could, and you are stepping into influence rooted in authenticity rather than image, substance rather than appearance, and legacy rather than momentary attention, and legacy is built slowly but activated suddenly, and this sudden activation is what you are experiencing now, because what was building quietly for 7 years is now surfacing with strength, clarity, and undeniable momentum. And as you embrace this new chapter remain disciplined in gratitude, consistent in action, protective of your peace, and unwavering in faith, because the same God who sustained you in delay is empowering you in acceleration, and the breaking of this 7-year delay is not just an event but a transition into a higher rhythm of living, where purpose guides you, peace grounds you, wisdom directs you, and favor surrounds you, and you will no longer look at your timeline with regret but with reverence, because you will see that every delay was divine design, preparing you for a season that could only begin now.